Hey, Monster fans. We're going to take a look at some old record albums that Monster kids love. This oldest one here, this is Monster Rally from 1958. And this particular copy of this is a little worse for the wear because my dad brought this to me. See on the edges there, it's worn through pretty much. My dad brought this to me from a radio station he used to work at in Dalton, Georgia, when they were clearing out some of their old albums in the 60s. And he knew that I was always a Monster fanatic, so he brought this to me, and I listened to it over and over. It's pretty good. It's pretty entertaining, and this cover is really sweet by Jack Davis, the great Jack Davis. I mean, this I've always loved this cover. I'd sit and just stare at it, and this is Jack Davis's take on the characters from the songs in the album. So let me show you the titles for the songs here. And of course, this is voiced by Hans Conried, who he was in a few movies. Mostly he did talk shows like The Tonight Show and things like that. He had a very distinctive voice. And I think he did a lot of voice work as well for cartoons and such. And let me show you the back. There's a picture of Hans Conried and Alice Pierce, who did voice work for this. And they were capitalizing on the Monster fad that resulted from the shock theater package being such a success on television, shown by horror hosts from all around the country. And you saw a lot of record albums like this back in the late 50s and really all through the 60s and into the 70s. They were very popular because there was no internet, there was no way to just hear your favorite content the way there is now. You had to buy a physical copy and play it on a record player to listen to this stuff. And here even is the CD. I ordered this from a website. It was called the Drive-In Moonlight Movies a few years ago, and that I checked, and that website is not there anymore. But I went ahead and grabbed this and another CD, and I'll show that to you in a second. I'm just going to show albums aside from just these two CDs. I've got stacks of Monster music CDs, and that's beyond the scope of this one video. But anyway, this is like the newer version. This living stereo banner at the top. They re-released Monster Rally. I'm not sure exactly when. Probably not long after the first one came out. And it had that living stereo banner at the top on the album. This is a copy of the album cover for that re-release. And here is the other CD I was going to show you, and then we'll move on to the record albums. But this is Dracula's Greatest Hits, and I do not have the original album for this. And one thing that makes this so noteworthy, it came with cards by, again, the great Jack Davis, who painted the cover for this Monster Rally album. And there were 15 of the cards. Now, this set, this is special edition, includes the 16 card set. It had like a title card, and I'm going to show those to you in a second. There's, some of the songs that are on it. And here's an ad. The guy that had the website for the Drive-In Moonlight Movies also had this Castle Records where, he would sell the CDs of these old Monster albums. And anyway, let me show you the cards. These things are uber cool, especially if you're a big fan of Jack Davis like I am. And here is the title card, 15 Monster fan cards. And that illo is drawn by Jack Davis, of course. And there's the first one, Count Dracula. Now, the ones that came free in the original album are on really thin cardstock. I think they were just on a big sheet of perforated thin cardstock. And those are often missing when you do find the original album. The original ones with the original cards, you know, tend to sell for a decent amount of money, I believe. But I was really glad to get this, and basically these were free. What the guy did, these are on thick cardstock. These are nice. So what the guy did, you know, he reprinted the original cards, and he had a few sets made up for a convention that he went to. And then he had a few left after that. Not many, I think probably less than 10 or whatever. And he gave those away to people that ordered the CDs. And I was lucky enough to get a set of these because I did not have the originals. So this is just wonderful for a Jack Davis fan, you know. Trying to get that to focus so you can see the fine line work there. Yeah, the Jack Davis art is just classic stuff. He did, you know, he worked for, he drew a lot of classic stories for EC Comics back in the 50s, and then he did a lot of other work for magazines, and he did some movie posters, you know, just really classic, awesome stuff. You know, I mean, he did covers for like TV Guide and major magazines back in the day. And he was big time. I mean, he had that creepy style that's cartoonish at the same time, and it really appealed to most people. It certainly made an impression on me as a monster kid. There's the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Davis's version. And lastly, here is the Wolfman. So there we go with that. And the cards even came in this really nice case that's exactly the right size for the set. So I was very glad to get that. Now let's move on. Like I said, this Monster Rally came out in '58. That was a gift from my father. And here we go. This is one of the most iconic ones, Famous Monsters Speak. This actually came out first in '63. And let me tell you, you can hear, I think, all of these on YouTube. You know, just do a quick YouTube search for any of these titles that I'm showing you, and you can hear the audio, you know, for free. So it's pretty cool for people that are into this stuff. Because the original albums vary in price, but sometimes they're kind of expensive. And you got to have, you know, a turntable or something to play them on to listen to the original albums. But you can own the original albums as a collectible and not even have to play it. You can just hear it on YouTube. Pretty awesome. And this is actually re-released. The first release of this, the cover was a little bit different. Let me get the business end of this down here for you. Yeah, 63 AA records. Yeah, and that's pretty good too, that Famous Monsters Speak. The Monster Rally has great songs on it too. Now, Famous Ghost Stories. I got this at an antique mall. It's still got the price taped to the plastic. It was $5. I got a lot of these, you know, in antique malls and flea markets over the years. It's got some pretty cool artwork on the back there. I like that purple background for it. And this is produced by Pickwick International. And I'm not sure about the date on this, but you know, it almost has to be 70s, I'm thinking. They made a lot of this stuff in the 70s, a lot of it. And any of it you want to listen to, just do a YouTube search and there you go. Now here's another one I bought in an antique mall. This is Terror Tales by the Old Sea Hag. And I think they even have this. I mean, this is kind of hard to find, and it's kind of pricey when you find it, but uh, they have this on YouTube. You can even listen to this thing. So, and it's by Martha Wentworth, the Old Sea Hag. And there it tells about Martha a little bit. And this is from 1959, I want to say. Let's see. As the camera takes its time, constant struggle. Anyway, I'm fairly certain this is from 1959, this particular one. And this is a really cool one here. I used to listen to this a lot. I bought this new back in the 70s, William Castle's Ghost Story. You know, it was a TV show. It was hosted by this guy, Sebastian Cabot. And it's got some really freaky songs and stories on here, you know. Really freaky stuff. Mansfield House. And I listen to this over and over. I love this thing. I even recorded it. Peter Pan Records. And this is definitely 70s. There's a little symbol. Peter Pan. And here is something, this isn't necessarily monsters, but it's something that us monster kids would have maybe been interested in. Storyteller, Two Complete Stories, Treasure Island, and Aladdin and His Magic Lamp. You know, this stuff's pretty good. I mean, it's not huge, and it could be argued that it's, you know, a lot of it's for little kids, but it's still pretty fun to listen to this stuff, you know. And like I said, you can just listen to it on YouTube if you want to, so it's always good. Let's see. Mercury Records. All right. Now we go back to some good monster stuff. Monster Mash Sounds of Terror. This is 70s too. I bought this one new. The Scary Fun record from Pickwick. It's got a cool cover there. Not sure who drew that. It kind of looks like some Eerie Pubs kind of stuff, which I always love, you know, the goofy, over-the-top gore and blood, and it's kind of silly, you know, but it's fun, you know. I mean, it's fun stuff. Kind of crude in a way and cartoonish. And there's some of the print on the back that and let's see, there's yeah, the camera doesn't want to focus on certain colors, which is kind of stupid, really, but that's what you deal with, you know. Just do the best you can. And that is signed Daniel. So I'm not sure who Daniel is that did those illustrations. 1974, Pickwick International. There we go. That's a good one. You might want to look that one up. Monster Mash, Sounds of Terror. And it does have Monster Mash on it, or a version of it. But, you know, the cool stories are nice. Now, I bought this one new. This is Chilling, Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House. And these are ubiquitous. You find these, you know, in a lot of places that have old records. But I really like this. And I bought this on a Florida vacation in a place called Webb City. When we were down there in the summer, I want to say 73. And anyway, this is actually a re-release. When this was first released, this had a white cover. And I don't have that one. But of course I have this one. It had some neat sound effects and some neat stories on it. And it's got this on the protective envelope that the actual record is in. It's got spooky party hints. And a lot of times when you find them for sale, this is missing. But you can still get this one pretty cheap because, like I said, it's very common, you know. And you can listen to it for free on YouTube if that's your thing. So, and it's got stuff on the back there. I mean, I love all this, all this kids Halloween monster stuff. You know, I mean, I grew up with it, and it's just part of me. You know, I mean, I'm a monster kid, so I love it. Never grow out of that. Never. And there we go. That gives you a tour of that. Anyway, that Webb City started out as a drugstore, and it became like the first like indoor shopping department store slash mall. And it was going out. It was on the way out in the 70s. I don't think it lasted past the 70s. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida, downtown St. Petersburg. And here's a cool Conan the Barbarian album. And wow, who drew that? 1976, Marvel Comics Group. You know, I want to say Neil Adams, and maybe it is Neil Adams. I don't know. It's kind of like you know, I see some Buscema in there too, so I don't know. Anyway, it's good. And there's the back. And the sword and sorcery, you know, that's part of horror. It always has been. So it's just like a subgenre, really, that's connected to horror, even in the comic books, because the Marvel title, Chamber of Horrors, I'm sorry, uh, Chamber of Darkness, that came out in like '69 and didn't last too long, but number 4 of Chamber of Darkness featured the Conan tryout by Barry Smith right before Conan number 1 came out. So, yeah, sword and sorcery's always been pretty much connected to horror. And I always considered, you know, like Savage Tales and Savage Sword of Conan and all those monster magazines because they were just full of monsters. And they're taken from stories by Robert E. Howard, and he wrote a lot of horror. You know, he was in contact with H.P. Lovecraft all the time, and you know that's Mr. Cosmic Horror there. So now here we go. Here's a Star Trek album. It's got some stories in there. It's pretty cool. And this is 70s too, 1975. Paramount Pictures Corporation. Now we get to something really good. I bought this one new as well. This is A Story Up, Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein from Power Records. And as you remember, at Power Records, they did a lot of stuff in the 70s where they combined comics with a record. You could listen to the record and read the comic. And they took existing comics and changed them around a little bit, you know, and they had the sound effects. You can listen to all this stuff on YouTube. And this is Neil Adams through and through. You know, that's what's great about this. Of course, the cover, you know, but the whole thing's Neil Adams. And it just can't be beat. And I'm going to show you some of the inside of this one because it's pretty spectacular. I mean, Neil Adams, man. As you can tell, I'm a Neil Adams fan. So, and the story continues, and hey, this may be reprinted somewhere on the internet. I don't know. But it's just, this fantastic Adams art that combines the three monsters in a great story. And it's really entertaining. There's the Frankenstein monster cutting loose, and the werewolf. And this is actually reprinted in a trade paperback that came out a few years ago called, I think it's called Neil Adams Monsters. It's just a trade paperback with the art and the story and all that, but there's no record or anything. But that's definitely worth having. I have that too. So not only did I have it in this format, I have it in that one. Look at the way Adams did the werewolf there. Is that great or what? I mean, I think Bernie Wrightson did the best werewolves ever, but Adams is right up there, man. Classic werewolf carnage. And I don't want to take forever with this. I'm going to kind of expedite it, but you get the idea. This is really good, and it's worth having in your collection. So if you get a chance to grab it, or at least buy the Neil Adams Monsters reprint of this. And there's his version of Dracula, which is beautiful artwork, man. And it looks like Dracula and the Frankenstein monster are having a bit of a disagreement there, as is classic. And Dracula's getting out of Dodge because he don't want to fight Frankenstein monster hand to hand. He turned into the bat. And then he got set on fire by this dude. And then the werewolf enters the fray, and don't want to give everything away, but it's really good, man. There's the record in the sleeve back here. I listened to this a few times too. And yeah, I can't recommend this highly enough. Here's another one that you see around from the 70s, Sounds to Make You Shiver. And I really like this this artwork on the front here. It's really stylized, and there again, kind of eerie pubs-ish without the gratuitous gore, but got some Lovecraftian elements here and there. Just cool stuff. And there's what's on the inside there. And, search it out on YouTube, listen to it. It's fun. And you can still find these pretty cheap, like in antique malls and, flea markets and different places. When you find them, they might be $15 or $20, but then again, you might find one for $5. You just don't know. So now this is the re-release of Chilling Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House. This is actually different. This is not the same sounds that was on the original one. It's got a cool cover like I just showed there. And it's got, there's an idea of what's in it. But yeah, this is different than the other one, so definitely worth having. And that is 79 Roman numeral wise. So that's when that came out. And Disneyland / Vista Records. Yeah, let's take a look at that cover again. That's pretty cool. And we have the Sounds of Halloween. Yeah, I just noticed my hand. It's pretty cold up here where I do these videos. So yeah, I'm not undead. It's just that the blood is not going to my hands very well right now because it's so damn cold up here. But anyway, Sounds of Halloween. You got the three witches over the cauldron there, and you got we can get that Halloween Horror Cast. It tells some of the credits, and then Story Halloween Horror. That's the whole side one, and then you got the sound effects on side two. That was standard for these. They often had. Now this has come out in '77 here. They often had on one side stories and on the other side sound effects, so you could make your own stories, I guess, with a tape recorder back in the day. And the Monsters. Yeah, I bought this one in an antique mall. I remember it was like $5. Of course, that was a while back, you know. That was like 10 or 12 years ago, probably. And there's some of the stories. That's a weird cover. It's pretty cool, though. Arrow Records. Yeah, a lot of companies got in on the act. I mean, this must have been pretty popular to sell these monster-oriented albums back in the day. Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, getting into the cryptids there. UFOs, Devil's Triangle. And it didn't cost them much to make these, you know. They'd get a few people together and write some copy and record it in the studio and crank one out, you know, and get some distribution. 1977, Arrow Records. And lastly, we have Monster Mash, novelty songs for the young of all ages, and it's drawn by George Peed. Can't say I'm too fond of George Peed's illustrations, but yeah, it's another Peter Pan. But you know, it's has a place in the history, so there you go. It's still cool for that anyway. And they've got versions of Monster Mash and Purple People Eater and Witch Doctor and some of the standard songs. Dinner with Drac. And on the back, it's got the monster maze that you can take a pin and screw that up. But somebody did not do that on this copy, which I appreciate. And that's pretty cool, the way that's illustrated. I don't know if P did that or not, probably. Yep, GP. George P did that, and he did a decent job on that little maze, looks like. So, that finishes my coverage of some Monster record albums. Hope you guys liked it. See you next time. Probably going to do some Monster magazines on the next video.